Hello and welcome to the Adventure Mindset Podcast. I am your host, Narita SLBs, and today I am excited to bring you a discussion that highlights a unique approach to physical education called Adventure Challenge, and how it fosters both leadership and personal growth in students. Joining me today is one of my biggest mentors and an Adventure Challenge teacher with 14 years of experience, Mr. Mark Chrzanowski. Mr. C, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Alrighty, so to get us started, can you just tell us a little bit about what Adventure Challenge is?
Yes, absolutely. So Adventure Challenge is really a non-competitive approach to PE. So a traditional high school or at the secondary level, traditionally PE is a sport-based program. So there will be a volleyball unit, a basketball unit, tennis unit, that type of thing. Adventure-based PE, as we teach it here at IA East, is not sport-based at all. It's adventure-based, and so we have a variety of adventure-based games and problem-solving initiatives that are really intended to bring out interpersonal skills and leadership and cooperation. Really, a lot of skills that I think are best taught through adventure and through the activities that we do. And so a large focus of the program is really having fun. A lot of times students that have come to me here at IA have not enjoyed their PE experience in the past. Maybe they've not been successful, they've not had skills, and honestly, when I tell students that they are not going to have fitness testing, their faces light up. So we use the avenue or the medium of physical activity to be able to teach skills that students are going to need throughout their entire life, like the cooperation, communication, trust, teamwork, that kind of thing.
And that whole faces lighting up thing is something that really resonates with me, because in elementary school and middle school, I took those physical education-based PE classes. And so there were all of these sports units, and I was never one of those top athletes. And so I enjoyed those classes, but I didn't feel like I was reaching my full potential or what PE could look like. And so when you first told that to me as a freshman, I remember that moment where I was like, what? This isn't gonna be like one of those classes? And so that inclusivity of Adventure Challenge is something that I found to be really beautiful, and I still think that's what really attracts students and draws students into this course. Is it's inclusive for everyone, and it's all about this experiential learning. You learn all of these life skills through activities. And so I know we've touched a little bit on this adventure-based PE, but what would you say are some of your favorite Adventure Challenge activities?
So one of my favorites, and I honestly change them up all of the time. I try not to really ever repeat the same activity with any one group. One of my favorites is called Blind Square.
Square.
I don't know if you remember. So all of the students are blindfolded, and somewhere in the gym is sometimes hidden actually I know that your class did this because I very vividly remember. So somewhere hidden around the gym typically is a rope that's tied in a giant loop, and so the class needs to first find the rope while blindfolded. Not the easiest challenge there. And then form that loop of a rope into as perfect of a square as they possibly can. And so there's a lot of communication that happens. There's a lot of kind of policing each other in terms of behavior and focus. Determination is a big one there, or striving to continue to achieve despite frustration that students or that the entire class might experience. But blind square for sure stands out it's really, honestly, it's one of the best ways that I can get to know a group is by observing how they behave during blind square.
And now that you bring it up, I do very clearly remember my class experience. It's really crazy thinking about it now because you're right, like as freshmen, we didn't really know each other back then. It was like the beginning of the year. And so now when I think about it, it's funny to think about how like our dynamic has changed or maybe stayed the same. But you're right, a lot of that activity is determination. I clearly remember one of my peers saying, "It's not even here." Like he doesn't like, it's not here, I'm telling you. And so a lot of it is like, just like trusting each other, right? Trusting that none of your peers has found the rope and hit it, or the teacher has hit it. And it's just about like, okay, like this is a hard thing, but we can do it. And we all have to stick together and communicate, right? If you can't see, you have to rely on like what everyone else can also feel.
Do you remember where the rope was?
Was it in your office?
So I actually had the rope with me.
Oh.
So one of the rules in that activity is that if everyone is silent, everyone in the entire class is silent and still, then I will answer any question that you have. And so it does take some self-control and some kind of policing of other people's behavior to encourage them to be silent and still long enough for people to ask a question and then for me to answer it. And the ultimate hack, solution, whatever, is to just simply ask for the rope. And I think that that's a great life lesson too of sometimes you just need to ask for help when it's necessary.
Yeah. No, beautifully said. So what other activities would you share?
Ever since I came to IA East 14 years ago, man, I can't believe 14 years ago I came here. I was always kind of jealous of our central campus, our original campus in Bloomfield Hills, because they have Bowers Farm, which is where you attended the ropes course we'll talk about in a bit. But they can just, the teacher, the Adventure Challenge teacher at our central campus can just walk down the road and have an entire low and high ropes course at their disposal. And so that's something that I've always been kind of jealous of. But so not having that, I've really worked to figure out how to bring the low ropes challenge to IA East. So one of the trainings that I went to early on, I learned about the existence of a slack line. And so I used to set it up between trees outside. I've set it up in the gym between volleyball poles. But basically it's my way of bringing a like tightrope walking kind of activity to our gym here. We have the climbing rope, which honestly, I don't have students climb because it scares me too much. But they do a lot of swinging activities. We do the balance activities. My son Griffin is in American Ninja Warrior training. He like goes once a week just for fun and for fitness. But the first few weeks going to that ninja course, I was just taking pictures constantly of like, how can I bring this back to IA East? How can I recreate that? And so it's just constantly running through my mind of what can I do to bring an authentic low ropes experience to our campus. And so it's been a big focus of mine.
And I think that also has an incredible impact on all of our students, you know. We'll show some pictures here as well, but when you see those low ropes course activities, like they're absolutely incredible. And so when students walk in, like I remember not just when I was a freshman and a sophomore, but even like now as a senior, watching our underclassmen come in, it's like, oh my God, like there's a ropes course, there are like tire swings, there's a rope. Like everyone's just so excited about the possibility of like engaging in these fun activities and knowing that like It doesn't matter how athletic you are, right? This is inclusive for everyone. And it's gonna be a fun class, right? It's so, like, no matter who you are, who doesn't wanna jump from a tire swing, right?
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because there's certainly a buzz that kind of goes around the school of like, oh man, did you see what's set up in the gym today? Oh, I remember doing that when I was a sophomore or when I was a freshman. And like, I can't help but like feed off of that energy and excitement, and it's great.
And I'm really happy that you brought that up, because here at IA, we have seminar days every Wednesday, and that means that we have shortened classes. And so I think that every student at the IA has that realization at some point where there's an incredible adventure challenge activity, but you're not gonna have the full 90 minutes to do it. And so I was talking with my buddies, my freshman buddies, and 2 of them were really upset that it was a seminar day and they had the tire swing activity. So I think that really speaks volumes about the kind of class environment that Adventure Challenge gives. And Mr. C is being humble here, but a lot of those activities are ones that he has made from scratch. And so a lot of time goes into thinking about how can this activity teach leadership, teach lessons, but also be enjoyable at its core. And so, props to you for going to that Ninja Warriors class and taking photos of your son and of those activities, because a lot goes behind the scenes to make a class like this possible. So.
Absolutely. Thank you for recognizing that.
Of course.
That's great.
And, going off of that, through these activities, I think we've touched on some of the core themes of this course, which is leadership and collaboration and trust. And I can say that for me personally, your mentorship has helped me become a leader who isn't just, I think in elementary school and middle school, we see leaders as people who stand on pedestals, and have followers. But I think that Adventure Challenge shows that those core themes are what leadership is about. It's about cooperating with those around you, coordinating, communicating. And so what would you say are those qualities that make students stand out as exceptional leaders in your classes? And what advice would you give to students to kind of embrace and embody those qualities?
So I think the number one quality that causes a student to stand out in my class is the willingness to be a risk taker. So the IB has a series of traits known as the IB learner profile. Risk taker, which is maybe sometimes in certain curriculums been replaced with courageous, but similar meaning. Being a risk taker, I think, is what makes students stand out the most in my class. And really it's just having the courage, the bravery to take a chance. Try stepping into the leadership role. And so I try to create an environment in my class that students feel supported and comfortable. Project Adventure, which is a company that Adventure Challenge is really kind of based on, they have a core theme called Challenge by Choice. And so that allows for students to choose at what level they challenge themselves or how they choose to challenge themselves. Students don't get to choose whether they participate, but how they participate. And so I encourage students to be a risk taker, try to take on the leadership role, and see a stumble or a failure, as we might call it, as not as a end of the road kind of failure, but as a stepping stone, as a building block to be able to learn from that mistake and move forward. And so being a risk taker, I think, is one of the things that allows students to stand out the most. On the risk taker note, I spend a good amount of time in my classes talking about the kind of 3 zones, the comfort zone, the growth zone, and the danger zone. And so I encourage students every single day to reach out or push themselves, maybe even sometimes push each other into the growth zone. So comfort zone is where you live your daily life. I think about it like a target. Comfort zone is where people live their daily lives. It's just the normal everyday happenings. Growth zone is where you feel a little bit on edge, a little uncomfortable. Maybe like doing a video podcast, for instance. And so in this growth zone, students are able to do exactly that. They're able to be out of their comfort zone, grow, and learn from that experience. The danger zone, that outer, or like that outside that kind of growth zone ring, is where I don't want students to ever be. This is where they are, if someone experiences danger zone, then in my experience, they're likely to retreat back to their comfort zone and never want to leave their retreat back to the comfort zone and not leave it for quite some time. So it's really balancing that being out of the comfort zone in that growth zone, and just, like taking risks and understanding that it's going to be okay. Your classmates are there to help support you, and everyone can be understanding that even mistakes are just learning opportunities. And
speaking of the growth zone, I remember one of the first activities that I had done in your class as a freshman was we all, so that was, way back during, like right after COVID. And so we had used like masks as blindfolds. And the activity was, you need to pair up with a random person in class that you're not friends with, and you're gonna be blindfolded and they're gonna guide you outside to the Baker track, which is quite a ways to go. And I was paired with a student that I really didn't even know. We'd gone to middle school together, but I remember, like you said, you can pick how challenged you are, right? And so it wasn't, you have to put the blindfold on and go the whole way. You gave the option of you can choose to what extent you want to participate in it, challenge by choice. And I was like, I want to try this. I want the full experience. And so I put on the blindfold.
There's that risk taker mentality.
Yeah, and we're and he's guiding me, and we're coming out the first door, and I bang into the door. And in the moment, I took the blindfold off, and I was like, what is happening? This is not what this is supposed to go. I'm in the growth zone. But I think that experience, I'm laughing back on it now, but it really goes to show that this class is all about taking risks and realizing that failures, whether they be small failures like that, are opportunities to grow. And so it took a while, but I put the blindfold back on, and maybe I was a little scary, but we went outside and we came back safe. So I think that anecdote just shows that yes, there are going to be obstacles on the way. Risk taking comes with risks, but that growth zone sometimes can get bigger and go into the risk zone, and vice versa. So that was just one beautiful experience that I'm laughing about now.
I'm glad that you can laugh about that now. I'm sorry that happened.
No. I guess another thing that we could touch on as well is just that reflection component of these activities. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so reflection is a huge component of my course. Basically, after every activity, we take some time, and it's called debrief, what happened during that activity. A sample debrief, or sample debrief. An example of a debrief tactic is the what, so what, now what framework. And so we talk about what happened. We talk about the so what, so what's the meaning of what happened. And then the now what is what conclusions can we draw and what lessons do we take with us moving forward.
And I think that the reflections that we did in this course were probably the first time that I can think of in my academic career that after a group project, our whole class came together and reflected upon what we were doing. And I think the direct or tangible impact of that is that I think in my sophomore year Adventure Challenge course, my peers and I were much more successful at our activities, in the sense that as freshmen, you would bring us back to reflect, and you were the facilitator of that reflection. But towards the end of 9th grade, and especially in 10th grade, it turned into, as my peers and I were trying to succeed or achieve a goal in an activity, we ourselves would stop after a method was not working, and we would come together and be like, okay, so we tried this, it's clearly not working, but that's okay that it's not working. How can we try to figure out how to be successful now? And so I think that really shows how, like, as a result of like our facilitated discussions, we came to the point where we were more open to being a risk taker, more open to viewing failure as an opportunity for growth. And that's just a really beautiful thing that I think was a direct result of the class.
And you maybe began to go through that process on your own without my facilitation, right?
Yeah.
And so what, like on that note, something that I think that's cool about the whole Adventure Challenge experience is that it is an opportunity for personal growth as well as group growth. And so you mentioned that impacted your experience as a sophomore in my class, but I can almost guarantee that it has impacted other aspects of your life as well, right? Just the ability for someone to look at and reflect upon their own actions and how that could impact a group or other individuals is so essential. And so with Adventure Challenge, yes, it could impact your ability to work on a group project, or in the future it could impact my hope is that it impacts students' ability throughout a career to learn how to work with coworkers that maybe they're not huge fans of, but they need to learn how to work with a variety of people, right? And so they get the practice, learning to collaborate with others in my class. They get the personal growth and reflection component, and they can use those skills in the professional world, as I mentioned, but also in their personal lives, right? Like, not a day goes by that I'm not reflecting on my interpersonal communication with my mom, with my wife, with my children, right? It truly promotes like lifelong skills that are applicable in personal setting as well as professional.
Very much so. And I think that for me personally, it's also just changed my attitude about collaboration and also about obstacles in group projects. Once again, I think that, you know, in the previous years of my academic career, it was like a group project doesn't work out and it's just like you're just kind of waiting for it to be over and get new group members. But an Adventure Challenge, you're gonna have those same peers for like an entire semester. And so it's not about, okay, it's like, it's everyone's fault, like it's the group members that you're working with. It's about, this didn't work and how can we make it better? And that mindset, like you said, I think it's something that I embody in my extracurriculars, my school projects that I'm working on now. So the skills that we learned here in this gymnasium really extend beyond the classroom. So I know we had touched on this a little bit earlier, but what is the culminating project of Adventure Challenge and what makes it so transformative?
So the capstone event of my course, as you know from experience, is going to our high ropes course in Bloomfield Hills. So because IA East is part of the tri-campus model of International Academy and our initial campus is in Bloomfield Hills, we have access to Bowers Farm, which is a school farm owned and operated by Bloomfield Hills and their employees. And we're able to use the ropes course at Bowers Farm. I think I'm one of a handful or fewer of teachers that take their students out to that ropes course. It's a dynamic ropes course, so it's not the like, oh, you get clipped into a cable and, you know, traverse a wire. It's you're getting clipped into a climbing rope and belayed by your peers, by a group of your peers, and climbing 30 feet or so into the air and doing a variety of activities, depending on which activity you've climbed. But it's amazing. Every year, without a doubt, probably every day on the ropes course, I see students achieve things that they never thought were possible. And there's something just so powerful about thinking you can't do something, right? There's a lot of I can'ts at the, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do that. And then by the end of the day, they do it. And there's something just so powerful about students proving themselves wrong. If they proved themselves wrong out at the ropes course, who's not to say that any other doubt that they have or will have in their lives can't be achieved. And so it's amazing. One event that most of my students, I think you probably at least had the opportunity to participate in, is the trapeze jump.
Yeah.
So that one in particular, it's a group of 8 or 9 of your peers on the belay line, holding on to the rope, and you're climbing 30 feet into the air, looking out off of this little pedestal attached to the tree.
Probably the size of that.
Yeah. And you have the option at that point, or challenge by choice, right? Students could just climb down, climb up, stand, take a peek, and then climb down. They could just jump off of the platform. They could jump for the trapeze bar suspended in the air out in front of them. They could even jump out there, grab onto the trapeze bar, and I've had students do a set of pull-ups up there. I've had students turn upside down and hang from their knees. Mm-hmm. And so it really is just whatever that individual student needs and what would benefit them as far as the challenge goes is what they are able to attempt. And so there's something really cool about the trap jump in the amount of trust that students place into their peers. The teacher is standing there at the belay line too, but oftentimes the teacher tends to disappear in the eyes of the students, and it's them, a 30-foot drop, and their classmates,
yeah.
Right? And so students exhibiting the courage to take that risk is oftentimes something that they never thought they would be able to do. And then they do it, and then they come down with just the biggest smile on their face. I truly believe it's a life-changing experience for some students.
And Mr. C, I was one of those students who said, I can't do the trapeze jump. I actually didn't think I could do the very first high ropes activity.
Two-line bridge.
And there are videos, there's a video of me doing the trapeze jump and that very first bridge. And what I will say is that I think the reason why, after climbing up to that platform, I took that first step is because I heard my peers say, just one more step, Nareda. You can do this, Nareda. You've made it this far. Just take that one step. And so I think that the reason why all of us turned that I can't into a I did it is because of the uplifting atmosphere that Adventure Challenge creates. It creates a community. It creates, every class becomes a family. And if you had told me in 9th grade that I would trust my classmates to hold me 30 feet up in the air, I would have said, you are crazy. There's no way that's happening, especially after walking into the door. I would have been like, no way. But I think that really speaks volumes about the culture that Adventure Challenge creates. And so, Mr. C, I just want to thank you for everything that you have done for our entire school, but also for me personally. I can't wait for all of our future students to fall in love with Adventure Challenge and just grow from the invaluable experiences that you have to offer and from the relationships that they will create in this class. So I want to thank you for being here on this podcast, The Adventure Mindset. I am your host, Nareda SLBs. Thank you for tuning in.